Dear reader, pause for a moment and reflect. When was the last time you truly listened? Not simply heard words as they floated past you, but truly grasped their essence, their weight, their meaning? And when you spoke, did you command attention? Did you engage? Did you move your audience? Or were your words lost in the ceaseless noise of daily life? In the grand arena of human interaction, the ability to speak with clarity and listen with intent is not just an advantage, it is a necessity. And yet, in a world overflowing with voices, the art of genuine communication has become a rarity, an overlooked skill in the rush of modern discourse. How often do we talk past one another, rather than to one another? How often do we struggle to make ourselves understood, failing to inspire or persuade as we wish we could? How often do we listen, not with patience and openness, but with our minds already occupied by what we will say next? Enter How to Speak, How to Listen by the brilliant Mortimer J. Adler, a book that does not merely teach rhetoric, but resurrects the lost art of true conversation. Adler, a master of philosophy, education, and logical discourse, extends an invitation to a world where speech is both an instrument of power and a bridge to understanding, where words are not simply sounds, but forces that shape thoughts, inspire action, and transform lives. But why does this matter? Why should you invest your time in mastering speech and sharpening your listening? Because communication is the bedrock of all human relationships. It is through speech that nations rise and fall, leaders emerge, and revolutions begin. It is through listening that wisdom is gathered, ideas are refined, and empathy is fostered. Whether you are a leader seeking to inspire, a professional striving to articulate ideas persuasively, or simply a human being yearning for deeper, more meaningful connections, this book is your guide. Through the pages of this work, Adler unveils the secrets of powerful speaking, how to structure arguments that persuade, how to choose words that resonate, how to hold the attention of a room with both logic and eloquence. But he does not stop there. He reminds us that true communication is a two-way street. The art of listening, he argues, is equally crucial. To listen well is to understand deeply, to engage meaningfully, and to respond with precision and wisdom. Imagine what your life could be if, every time you spoke, you were heard with clarity and respect. If, every time you listened, you absorbed knowledge with discernment and depth. What opportunities would open before you? What conflicts would dissolve? What heights could your influence reach? So, dear reader, if you are ready to elevate your words from mere sounds to symphonies of meaning, if you are ready to hone the art of listening as keenly as that of speaking, then let us begin. Mortimer J. Adler stands before you as a guide, his wisdom etched in every page, his lessons poised to transform not only how you communicate, but how you connect with the world itself. Part 1 Summary. Introduction. The Lost Art of Communication. Dear reader, imagine a world where words wielded the power they once did, where speaking was an art and listening was a discipline. Imagine a time when orators captivated entire nations, where the spoken word inspired movements, and where true dialogue flourished. That world is not lost. It is simply buried beneath the noise of modern life. Mortimer J. Adler, a master of intellectual thought and a champion of classical learning, brings us back to the foundations of human connection in how to speak, how to listen. He does not just teach us to talk, he teaches us to move people. He does not just instruct us to hear, he shows us how to absorb, process, and truly listen. In this first part of his masterpiece, Adler lays the foundation for what makes speaking and listening not just useful skills, but transformative powers. He takes us on a journey through the very essence of communication, showing us why so many fail at it and how we can rise above the ordinary to master it. Chapter 1. The Two Sides of Communication: Speaking and Listening. To speak effectively is to command attention. To listen effectively is to command respect. Adler begins by drawing a clear distinction between these two forces, one active, one receptive. Yet, he warns us that most people neither speak well nor listen well. We live in an age of distractions. People hear, but they do not listen. They speak, but they do not communicate. Adler emphasizes that speaking without being understood is as futile as listening without comprehension. The greatest minds in history, Socrates, Lincoln, Churchill, did not just talk. They spoke with purpose, with precision, and with passion. And they listened just as intensely as they spoke. In this chapter, Adler provides a profound insight. Most people approach communication selfishly. They focus on what they will say next rather than truly listening to the person in front of them. The remedy? We must cultivate an active, engaged mind in both speaking and listening. Chapter 2. The Role of Rhetoric, the Lost Power of Oratory.
A. Rhétorique.
Once the crown jewel of education, now a forgotten relic of the past. Adler resurrects the ancient power of rhetoric, the art of persuasion, the ability to shape thoughts and stir emotions with words. He traces rhetoric back to Aristotle and Cicero, reminding us that great leaders throughout history were not just thinkers, but masterful speakers. He argues that every human being, not just politicians or philosophers, must learn to express their thoughts persuasively. Adler identifies 3 core elements of effective rhetoric. 1. Logos, logic, the structure, the reason, the foundation of an argument. A great speaker must have clear, rational thought. 2. Pathos, emotion, the heartbeat of speech, the power to connect with the audience. Without emotional resonance, words are hollow. 3. Ethos, credibility, the trust, the authority, the confidence that makes people believe in the speaker. Without it, even the most logical arguments fall flat. Through these pillars, Adler teaches us that rhetoric is not manipulation, it is illumination. The goal of a great speaker is not to deceive, but to reveal truth in a way that people cannot ignore. Chapter 3. Preparing the mind, thinking before speaking. The most powerful speeches in history were not spontaneous. They were the result of deep thought. Adler stresses that preparation is the key to compelling communication. Before one utters a word, the mind must be sharpened. This means gathering knowledge, structuring ideas, and anticipating counterarguments. Adler warns against word clutter, the meaningless chatter that fills conversations but conveys nothing. Instead, he calls for deliberate speaking, every word chosen for impact, every sentence crafted with intent. He provides a simple yet profound exercise. Before you speak, ask yourself, what do I want to achieve with these words? What do I want my listener to feel, understand, or do? How can I express myself clearly, without wasted words? A speech, no matter how brief, should have a purpose, a structure, and a destination. And those who prepare their minds before speaking will find their words carry weight far beyond the ordinary. Chapter 4. The Art of Listening, More Than Just Hearing. The greatest speakers in history were also the greatest listeners. Abraham Lincoln, one of the most eloquent leaders of all time, was known for his ability to listen deeply before responding. Adler argues that active listening is an intellectual discipline, a skill that must be trained, honed, and mastered. He identifies the enemies of good listening. 1. Impatience, rushing to respond rather than absorbing what is being said. 2. Prejudice, filtering out information that does not align with one's beliefs. 3. Distraction, letting external noise or internal thoughts disrupt true focus. The solution? Adler teaches us the 3 levels of listening. Passive listening, hearing words without truly processing them. This is what most people do. Attentive listening, engaging with the speaker, focusing on their message. Active listening, understanding not just the words but the meaning behind them, the emotions, and the unspoken truths. Adler urges us to practice intellectual humility, the ability to listen without immediately forming a response. Only then can we engage in true dialogue. Chapter 5. The Power of Dialogue, Engaging in Meaningful Conversations. Now we bring it all together. Speaking and listening are not separate entities. They are two sides of the same coin. True communication is a dance, a rhythm of giving and receiving. Adler introduces the concept of productive conversation, a conversation in which both parties grow intellectually. He contrasts this with empty conversation, where words are exchanged, but no one truly learns or understands. The key to meaningful dialogue? Asking the right questions. Great conversations are not built on statements, but on curiosity, on seeking deeper truths. Adler encourages us to replace superficial talk with clarifying questions. What do you mean by that? Challenging questions. Have you considered this perspective? Reflective questions. How does this connect to our shared experiences? By mastering the art of dialogue, we move beyond small talk and enter a world where conversations shape minds, change opinions, and build deep relationships. Conclusion: the journey begins. And so, we have completed the first leg of this journey, the foundation of speaking and listening as true skills of the intellect. Mortimer J. Adler has not just given us techniques, he has handed us the keys to unlocking the full power of human communication. But this is just the beginning. In the next part of this book, we will dive deeper into the mechanics of speech, how to organize thoughts, how to command an audience, and how to leave a lasting impact with our words. The question is, are you ready to speak so people listen? Are you ready to listen so you truly understand? The power is in your hands. And the journey continues. Part 2 Summary. Introduction. From Words to Influence. Dear reader, we have laid the foundation. We understand that speaking is more than just talking and listening is more than just hearing. We have explored the art of dialogue, the principles of persuasion, and the lost power of rhetoric. But now, we must go deeper. If Part 1 was about understanding why speaking and listening matter, Part 2 is about how to master these skills in practice. Now, we focus on the mechanics, the strategies that elevate a speaker from ordinary to extraordinary, from forgettable to unforgettable. We embark on the path of great orators, learning how to organize our thoughts, engage our audiences, and deliver messages with precision, confidence, and lasting impact. Let us begin. Chapter 6. Structuring Your Speech. The Blueprint for Clarity and Impact. A great speech does not happen by accident. It is built, piece by piece, with purpose and precision. Adler teaches us that just as an architect would never build a house without a blueprint, a speaker should never approach a speech without a plan. He outlines the 3 essential components of every effective speech. 1. The opening, capturing attention. The first moments of a speech are critical. Adler warns that if you do not grab your audience's attention immediately, you may never get it. A strong opening can be a provocative question, a powerful quote, a surprising statistic, a compelling story. 2. The body, organizing thoughts with logic. The heart of the speech must be structured logically. Adler suggests using the 3-point rule, breaking a speech into 3 clear, memorable arguments. This structure is easy to follow and powerful in impact. 3. The conclusion, leaving a lasting impression. Adler teaches us that how you end is just as important as how you begin. People remember endings, so the final word should reinforce your message, inspire action, or leave the audience with a powerful thought. To illustrate, think of Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. The opening drew people in, the middle structured the argument, and the ending left an emotional imprint that still echoes through history. A speech without structure is like a book without chapters. It loses the audience before it even begins. Chapter 7. Mastering Delivery, Voice, Tone, and Presence. A speech is not just about what is said, but how it is said. Delivery can elevate even the simplest message into something profound. Adler emphasizes that the voice is an instrument, and like any instrument, it must be tuned and played with skill. 3 key elements of powerful delivery. 1. Tone and inflection. A monotone voice puts an audience to sleep. Adler advises varying pitch and tone to emphasize key points and keep listeners engaged. 2. Pauses and pacing. Silence is a powerful tool. A well-placed pause can add drama, allow ideas to sink in, and create anticipation. 3. Body language and presence. Words alone are not enough. A speaker's posture, gestures, and facial expressions must align with their message. Adler also warns of common pitfalls: speaking too fast, using filler words, like, and failing to make eye contact. These mistakes weaken a speaker's presence and credibility. A well-delivered speech does not just inform, it moves people. Chapter 8. Engaging the audience, the art of connection. The best speakers do not just talk to an audience, they talk with them. They create a connection. Adler teaches us that audience engagement is not a bonus, it is essential. He offers several strategies to captivate an audience. Ask rhetorical questions, make listeners think, reflect, and engage mentally. Tell stories. Humans are wired for storytelling. A well-told story can illustrate a point more effectively than any statistic. Use humor when appropriate. Laughter breaks tension, creates rapport, and makes a speech more memorable. One of the most powerful lessons Adler shares is this: know your audience. A speech to business executives must differ from a speech to students. Tailoring language, examples, and tone to the audience's needs makes the message far more effective. The greatest speakers are not those who say the most, they are those who make the audience feel the most. Chapter 9. The role of persuasion, winning minds and hearts. A speech is only as powerful as the influence it carries. Adler teaches us that persuasion is not manipulation. It is the art of presenting truth in a way that compels people to listen, understand, and act. He revisits Aristotle's 3 pillars of persuasion: logos, pathos, and ethos, and explains how to use them effectively. Logos, logic. Use clear reasoning, evidence, and logical arguments to establish credibility. Pathos, emotion. Appeal to emotions through powerful language, stories, and vivid imagery. Ethos, credibility. Establish trust by demonstrating expertise, honesty, and authenticity. Persuasion is not about overpowering an audience, it is about leading them to a new perspective. Chapter 10. Overcoming fear, the confidence to speak with authority. Even the greatest speakers in history have felt fear before stepping onto a stage. Adler acknowledges that fear is natural, but he provides a roadmap to overcome it. How to conquer stage fright. 1. Preparation is power. The more prepared you are, the less fear you will feel. Confidence comes from knowing your material inside and out. 2. Practice, but don't memorize. Memorization can make a speech sound robotic. Instead, internalize key points and speak naturally. 3. Focus on the message, not yourself. Fear often comes from worrying about how we are perceived. Shift focus away from yourself and toward delivering value to the audience. 4. Use controlled breathing, deep, steady breaths calm nerves and strengthen vocal delivery. Adler reminds us that nervousness is a sign that we care, and caring about our message is the first step to delivering it well. Conclusion: the path to mastery. And so, we have reached the heart of how to speak, how to listen. We now understand the blueprint of a great speech, the power of delivery, the art of persuasion, and the means to overcome fear. But there is one final truth: mastery comes from practice. No one is born a great speaker. The greatest orators in history, Churchill, Lincoln, Roosevelt, became great because they studied, practiced, and refined their craft. Adler leaves us with a challenge. Will we settle for speaking passively, or will we commit to speaking powerfully? Will we merely hear others, or will we listen with full attention and presence? The next time you stand before an audience, whether one person or 1,000, remember this: your words have the power to inspire, to educate, and to transform. Use them well. Part 3 Summary. Introduction: The Lost Art of Listening. Dear reader, We have explored the art of speaking, how to craft a powerful message, how to engage and persuade, how to overcome fear and command attention. But now we must turn our focus to something just as vital, if not more so: the art of listening. For what good is a speaker without an audience? What use is eloquence if no one truly hears? Mortimer J. Adler warns us of a grave problem in our modern world. People hear, but they do not listen. They respond, but they do not understand. Conversations are filled with interruptions, distractions, and rehearsed replies rather than genuine engagement. Listening is not passive, it is an active skill, one that requires patience, discipline, and an open mind. And so, let us now dive into the final and perhaps most transformative section of this book: how to listen with intent, understanding, and power. Chapter 11: The Difference Between Hearing and Listening. To listen is not merely to hear. Sound waves striking the eardrum do not constitute true listening. Adler defines genuine listening as the ability to fully comprehend and engage with what another person is saying, both intellectually and emotionally. But why do so many fail at this? He outlines several barriers to effective listening. 1. Preoccupation with our own thoughts. Instead of listening, most people are mentally preparing their own response. They are waiting for their turn to speak rather than absorbing what is being said. 2. Emotional reactions. When we hear something that challenges our beliefs, we often react defensively instead of considering the perspective being presented. 3. Distractions and short attention spans. In today's world of constant notifications and digital noise, maintaining focus on a speaker has become increasingly difficult. To become an effective listener, we must learn to silence our inner dialogue and focus fully on the speaker's words, tone, and meaning. Chapter 12: The Three Levels of Listening. Adler introduces a powerful concept. Listening is not one skill, but three. Each level of listening requires a deeper degree of attention and effort. 1. Listening for information. This is the most basic level. It involves capturing facts, dates, names, and details. It is the level at which we listen to lectures, news reports, or instructions. It is useful, but alone, it is not enough. 2. Listening for understanding. At this level, we go beyond mere facts and begin to grasp the meaning and significance of what is being said. This is the level required for deep discussions, problem solving, and genuine learning. Adler suggests paraphrasing what someone says to test whether we truly understand their message. 3. Listening for evaluation. This is the highest level of listening, in which we assess the truth, logic, and validity of what is being said. It is the level used in debates, negotiations, and decision-making. However, Adler warns that evaluation should come last. We must first understand before we judge. Too often, people listen only to criticize, rather than to comprehend. Mastering all three levels allows us to communicate more effectively, resolve conflicts, and engage in meaningful conversations. Chapter 13: Active Listening: The Power of Full Attention. Adler introduces the concept of active listening, a technique that transforms conversations and deepens relationships. How to practice active listening. 1. Give full attention, stop multitasking. Put away distractions. Make eye contact. Show that you are engaged. 2. Use verbal and nonverbal feedback, nodding, small affirmations like "I see" or "go on," and maintaining an open posture all encourage the speaker to continue. 3. Paraphrase and reflect. Instead of responding immediately, try rephrasing what the speaker said to confirm understanding. So, what you're saying is, "It sounds like you feel." 4. Ask clarifying questions. Rather than assuming meaning, ask, "What do you mean by that? Can you give me an example?" 5. Control emotional reactions. If you disagree, resist the urge to interrupt or argue. Let the speaker finish. Seek to understand before responding. Active listening is not about agreeing with everything. It is about making the speaker feel heard and respected. Chapter 14: The Role of Listening in Leadership and Influence. Adler argues that great leaders are great listeners. History's most effective leaders, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Mandela, did not just give powerful speeches, they also listened deeply.
Why?
Because true leadership is not about dictating. It is about understanding people's needs, concerns, and motivations. He outlines the three qualities of a leader who listens effectively. 1. Patience. They give people time to express their thoughts fully. 2. Empathy. They seek to understand emotions as well as words. 3. Wisdom. They do not just react, they reflect before responding. Adler warns of the dangers of leaders who fail to listen. When leaders surround themselves with people who only tell them what they want to hear, they lose touch with reality, leading to disastrous decisions. A leader who listens is a leader who inspires trust. Chapter 15. Deep Listening in Personal Relationships. Adler shifts from public speaking and leadership to something even more personal: how listening shapes our relationships. He makes a powerful claim. Most relationship conflicts stem not from disagreement, but from feeling unheard. In marriages, friendships, and family dynamics, poor listening leads to frustration, resentment, and distance. But true listening can heal wounds, build bridges, and create deeper connections. The 4 rules of listening in relationships. 1. Listen to understand, not to reply. Avoid formulating your next argument while the other person is speaking. 2. Validate feelings. Even if you disagree, acknowledge the other person's emotions. Example: I can see why you'd feel that way. 3. Avoid defensive responses. Instead of reacting emotionally, ask questions to clarify their concerns. 4. Give your full presence. Put down the phone, make eye contact, and truly be with the person. When people feel heard, they feel valued. And when they feel valued, relationships flourish. Conclusion: becoming a master communicator. And so, dear reader, we have reached the end of this journey. We have learned not only how to speak with power, but also how to listen with purpose. Mortimer J. Adler's message is clear. True communication is a two-way street. Speaking without listening is arrogance. Listening without speaking is silence. But when both skills are mastered, they create something truly extraordinary: connection, understanding, and influence. And so, I leave you with this challenge. The next time you speak, speak with clarity, confidence, and purpose. The next time you listen, listen with patience, focus, and depth. For in doing so, you will not only change conversations, you will change lives. The world needs more great communicators. The question is, will you rise to the challenge? Thanks for listening to Book Buzz reviews and summaries. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new video updates.